Good evening. The old man here, November 25th, 2024. Trying to rush this. This is my second video for this evening. If you didn't catch my other one, I had, let's say, phone issues or technical difficulties. I kept getting the message that my memory on my phone was full. I thought I cleared it out. I hadn't cleared it all out. Come to find out, they've got three different levels of the same thing you need to clear out. And it took me a good day and a half to figure that out, amongst all the other things, the other projects I was working on. We also had a family Thanksgiving yesterday evening. So that didn't have a lot of time to work on the phone, but eventually this morning I got it all figured out, and away we go. So what I want to talk about tonight was inspired by Steve, and can't remember his whole channel name, but Steve knows who I'm talking about. That's the main thing. Talking about time is money. Well, let me first start out by saying I love America. I love this country. However, the government, I'm not too impressed with. They've been stealing your money for a long time. And the reality of it is, if they're stealing your money, they're really stealing your time. There's one thing that we don't have an infinite amount. We're only got so much time on this earth, and we don't know how long that is. We decide to trade our time for money by working for somebody, and over the years we've allowed them to steal that from us. Okay, you might think that it's normal to pay income tax. Do you realize that prior to federal income tax, that is, state income tax is actually normal, but federal income tax, do you realize that prior to World War I, we didn't pay any federal income tax? All of it was, all of the federal money come from tariffs, okay? So it's not normal. And they think today that it's normal for 2% inflation, and that's what the Fed figures, is fair. 2% inflation every year. They inflate the money supply by 2%, and therefore your purchasing power goes down by 2% every year. And that's low enough that you really don't normally notice it. If you look back 10 years and you go, oh my God, I remember paying X amount for this, and now it's this much. Well, at 2% over 10 years, let's say that's 20% more in 10 years. Well, that's more, but it's not so much that you go, ouch. But what you don't realize is that product went up by 20% over 10 years. Did your paycheck go up by 20% over 10 years? But more real than that is, okay, now I've talked about it before, and you ought to all realize they tell you 2%. Is it 2%? I'm afraid not. Okay, if you go to shadowstats.com, he'll show you what the real inflation rate is today if you use the same metrics they used in the 70s. You bring that up to today, and you'll find that you're in a normal times, if you will, that 2% that they claim is more like 5 to 7%. So now if you take 7% or even 5%, let's say 5% over 10 years, that product's gone up by 50%. But it's still slow enough that you don't say, ouch, okay? But here just a little while ago, 2-3 years ago, I don't really remember which year it was now. I think it was 21, but I can't say for sure. They were telling us that inflation was 9%. If you go to Shadow Stats, they'll tell you it's more like 18%. Okay, well, if you had 18% inflation in 1 year, plus 5 to 7% since then, that's all added together. That's a hell of a lot of inflation. And that's why you're noticing the pinch at the pump and you're noticing the pinch on your grocery bill. Okay? Because it did add up faster than normal. But I'd like to give you an analogy. Let's say it is 2% a year, and your federal income tax is typically around 35%. It depends on your tax bracket, but let's say it's 35% for the average folks. Maybe a little less than that, but let's say it's 5%. My analogy to that is, and see how this would anger you if you think about it slightly different. Let's say you've got $100,000 worth of Snap-on tools out in your pole barn, and your uncle lives next door, and let's say your uncle's name is Sam. So Uncle Sam, comes over every day and takes 35% of your tools a year. It adds up to 35% of your tools in a year. Through the day, and you know it, but you're okay with it. That's fair. That's okay. I can live with that. But what you don't know is Uncle Sam comes in every night through the back door. You don't see him come in. He comes through the back door and takes another 2%. And he gives it to the feds, okay? And the feds, because they're the debt note, the carrier of the debt note, they create it out of thin air. His fair share is 2%. So instead of 35%, you're paying 37%. And at the end of the day, between the two, how much do you have left? Okay, that's, we quite often say, well, damn, I need to make more money. My boss needs to pay me more. Well, that may be true. He may need to pay you more, but in reality, it's not your boss that's holding you down and keeping you broke. It's the federal government. When you think about Uncle Sam coming in the front door and taking 35% of your wages, and then comes in the back door and takes 2 more, and he claims it's 2%, he tells you right off it's 2%, but in reality it's 5 to 7%. So now he's taking over 40% of your income. Is your boss the problem? Is your boss stealing your time? No, I don't think so. Your boss agreed to pay you a certain wage, and if he agreed to it and he wasn't doing it, you wouldn't work there anymore. You'd quit. The real problem is Uncle Sam is taking, between Uncle Sam and the feds, they're taking somewhere between 42% of your income. They don't leave you a hell of a lot to pay bills. All right? I think he's the problem. And if you think of it, it's not right. It's not constitutional. Let's talk constitutional to steal your wealth. And that's exactly what they're doing. There's nothing in the Constitution that says the federal government can tax you 40 to 42% or anything as far as that goes. I don't say we need a lower federal income tax. We need no federal income tax. Think of how much more money you would have. Okay? You'd have so much more dispensable income, you wouldn't know what to do with it all compared to where you are today. So the real problem is not what you're getting paid, but what the feds are stealing from you. And keep in mind, time is money, so they're really stealing your time. That time could be spent with family. That time could be spent on the weekends. Instead of having to work 6 days a week, you work 5 days a week. Maybe you only need to work 4 days a week, okay? And you could spend more time with your family. You could spend more time on vacation. You could spend more time on your hobbies. Regardless of what that hobby is, it doesn't matter, okay? You could, so many of us have never even left this country other than maybe through the military or work, okay? You could spend time in other countries if the federal government wasn't stealing all your money. I got high hopes for Trump. Everything I've said it before. I've studied Trump extensively since 2016. I listen to everything, and everything goes in the back of my head. Everything that he says, I just keep stacking up, stacking up, stacking up. I've never heard anything from him that he backed off on once he got elected. That's the thing. That's unlike any other politician. I've said for 40 years now, we need a businessman running this country, not some idiot that's never held a real job, like the Kenyan, for example, or this other idiot that just got done running. Finally, thank God we put the boots to her. Oh my God, what a fucking disaster. That is just a mess. Biden that we just got rid of. Well, we're not officially done with him yet, but we're getting there. And then Kamala, whatever the hell her name was. Oh my God. Talk about left-wing progressive. Oh my God. And you thought Biden's policies were insane. Kamala's ultra left-wing progressive. At the end of the day, I think the United States, we're going to go through some tough times, but we're going to hold our own. And the big thing about Trump, everything I've ever heard about Trump, if you listen to the details and you know the Constitution, we're going back to the Constitution. Everything else is being cut. Okay? All of these, they talk about the Doge, Elon Musk, and I can't pronounce the other guy's name for no money. But you know who I'm, Vivek. Let's call him Vivek. So at least know who I'm talking about. They're going to cut all of these agencies. Well, even if they just roll back everything that's unconstitutional, if they just roll that back, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe what can be done by rolling it back. I don't know if you're aware of it, but not too long ago, we had a Supreme Court ruling on Chevron, and I'll boil that down for you real quick. I don't want to go through the boring details, but to boil this down quick, the Supreme Court said that basically all of these agencies, whether that be the Food and Drug Administration, or the ATF, or the Bureau of Land Management, and all of these agencies, the Congress have given them certain laws to work with and guidelines amongst those laws to work with. And those agencies have gone beyond that and made their own laws, if you will. They've determined, or they read into it much more than it really was. So we're dealing with a lot of bureaucracy that was never even passed by Congress. If you could just roll back all that crap, and that's coming. That is coming, and that's what they're finding hard to believe. So many people I listen to on YouTube and whatever, they're very skeptical about what all they can do. Well, the Supreme Court's already done it. All you got to do now is point it out. Say, that's unconstitutional, that's unconstitutional, that's unconstitutional, that's unconstitutional, and it all needs to go, and it's gone. The Supreme Court has already ruled. You don't have to wait for rulings. Okay, this isn't a waiting game anymore. The Supreme Court has ruled, and the other thing I've said before, not on this channel, but I've said to friends before, and they didn't realize how powerful his Supreme Court nominations were, that how much difference that is going to make in the United States for the next possibly, let's call it 30 years, because that's a lifetime appointment. And aren't any of his latest appointments that old? Okay, they're maybe in their 40s, but they could honestly, easily serve another 30 years on the Supreme Court. And the main thing is they're basically constitutionalists, okay? They're not left-wing. They're not right-wing. They read the law. This is what it is. This is the Constitution, I should say. And any of these laws that are outside the Constitution, they've been knocking them down hard. You know, the ATF has taken many things to them and got their butt handed to them and been ruled unconstitutional. In the future, you could see things like the 1928 Gun Control Act thrown out the window. That's just something that Vivek and Elon Musk can do. You know, through that Chevron ruling, the 1928 Gun Control Act is unconstitutional. The 1968 Gun Control Act is unconstitutional. What does that mean? Okay, 1928 Gun Control Act is all of your NFA stuff, and NFA is basically your full auto stuff. Okay, they have no business regulating that. None. It says shall not infringe is the Second Amendment. Okay, shall not infringe. Any infringement is an infringement. So all of that full auto stuff, all of that suppressor stuff should have never been on the 1928 Gun Control Act. Your short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns shouldn't be in there. We should not deal with that stuff at all, let alone pay a $200 tax stamp on every damn one of them. That's totally ridiculous. And what's the 1968 Gun Control Act? The long and the short of it is having to go through a dealer. Now, mind you, I am a dealer, and if they get rid of this, it's actually going to be a free-for-all because you can buy guns through the mail and have them shipped to you. If they get rid of the 1968 Gun Control Act, which means you got to pass a background check. It could happen. And if he peels this layers of crap all the way back to the core, and the core being the Constitution, you will not believe this country and what we can do. Unbelievable what we can do. Think about the investments. If you didn't have 40% of your wealth stolen from you, think of the investments you could make in small businesses and even large businesses through stocks. Think of the gold and silver that you could stack and hand down to family members 3 generations from now. Unbelievable what you could do. But instead, you got a chain and ball around your ankle that you're dragging around everywhere, and you wonder why it's so difficult to move forward. I've quite often in my life that, man, I'm running on all cylinders here. I'm going as fast as a guy can go, and is it me? Am I the problem? Am I not getting it? And when I realize it's not me that's a problem, it's that everything you try to do, that chain and ball keeps you from doing it. It keeps you at a certain rate that you've got just enough to get by. Okay? So that's what I got to say about that for tonight. I hope that analogy made some sort of sense. But at the end of the day, I know you wouldn't put up with your uncle next door stealing 40% of your tools. Why are you putting up with Uncle Sam stealing 40% of your wealth? The day has come, I think, and we need to let the politicians know. Trump is in, true, but that doesn't mean we stop. That doesn't mean we let our guard down. That means we hold their feet to the fire. I would love to see the next thing that would be great, besides those 3 appointments that Trump did, is that he gets through term limits. That's the next thing we need to do. We need term limits as well. That's something he can work on through Congress and a bunch of these new Congress people. These old Congress people that have been in there for 40 years, they don't want it. They don't want to end it. They want it just to last forever. That's the the power thing, the power trip. They don't want to let go of that power. That's what we need. We need an overhaul. We need it changed. We need, I don't want to say, I'm in my 60s and I know I can't do what I could do back in my 40s. And let alone these people in Congress are 70s and 80 years old. Here a while ago, I can't think of her name now, but she was out of California. I mean, she was drooling in a cup for 3 years. And somebody else, she still held the seat. And somebody else in her family was making the decisions for her. Oh my God, really? Really? That's what we're doing. That's how we're running this country. And yes, it is. So we need to keep their feet to the fire, make sure that things are done the way they said they were going to do them. We need to peel these layers away. We need to get rid of the bureaucrats and get back to the Constitution. That is the answer, plain and simple, is the Constitution. So many of these states have let the feds take over the jobs they should have been working on, and let's get it back to the states. If the state is giving you a problem, it's much easier to drive to Lansing than it is DC. There's a lot of bureaucrats that's got to go. All right, guys, good night. Appreciate you stopping by. Like and subscribe, and please comment. I love to see the comments. I read them every morning, and it also helps me create ideas for future videos. I appreciate it, guys. Good night. Thank you. Bye.